And away we go. So I just realized as we're going through this, and I'm going to ask everybody to be patient. Thank you for joining the Big 12 Mafia show on the College Football Mafia Network. We had a little miscommunication with Moen, and this show on YouTube for some reason was scheduled 2 hours later, and that's the normal time we do a show. So what I want to do is really quick. I am going to create a post on YouTube. Show time changed to 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Join us now. All right. I apologize about that. If you thought our show was going to be later, we're actually earlier today. So just so everybody knows, I appreciate everybody joining. Daniel, really quick, how are you doing today?
Doing really good. I got to spend time dealing with tires with a car. Fun.
Oh. Yeah, don't bring that up to me. I know I've probably got $1,200 I got to go spend, and I'm not excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
You will be joining us in a little bit. We're going to be talking. This show is pretty much going to be around two topics: college football playoff, which everybody should be enraged by, especially if you're a Big 12 person. If it doesn't piss you off what happened to BYU, and by the way, there's no other schools in there, even though Iowa State, Kansas State, Iowa State's got one loss, and they've been treated like they're a four-loss team. That's stuff that the Big 12 people need to be enraged about. The story about BYU is the polarizing part. It's the thing that everybody has used as the crutch. But honestly, the story is the Big 12 has been relegated and is now being treated basically just like the Mountain West and the old Pac-12, right?
Yes. There was a tweet that came out that showed that BYU has 2 top 25 wins, and Texas, Alabama, and I can't remember who else the other one was on there, had 1. And they're ranked above BYU. I mean, it's a beauty contest, and I'm not happy with it.
I'm not happy either. I think this is something that if Moen was here, he'd be like, well, the Big 10 got 4 schools in the top 10.
Yes.
Okay. Stuff like that is absolutely broken. And I'm not sure how that gets fixed in the long run. But something needs to change. One thing that's been good, and I'm going to do this, and I hope we don't get shut down by YouTube. So I'm warning everybody watching right now. I'm going to run a video clip. It's actually of Greg McElroy on his show. I sent it to Moen. Moen never said I shouldn't play it, so I'm going to play it. I'm not going to play the ESPN one, but I am going to play the other one. And everybody, you tell me, why is Greg McElroy wrong here? All right, let me bring this up so we have the video. Let me back it up. Let me pause it. Pause. All right, give me a second. Share. Let's see. Share screen. Entire screen here and use audio. Okay. You tell me if you can't hear the audio. Okay.
Okay.
Daniel. All right. And this is the video. And yeah, just let me know if you can't hear it. Okay, so this is Greg McElroy. Last night was big pronounced on ESPN. Then he went on his own show. Let's give credit. In fact, let me put the link to this really quick. Let me get the link to actually his post. Copy link. We always give credit here at the College Football Mafia Network. Here we go. There's the link. It's on YouTube. It's on Twitter if you want to watch it. But watch it here right now with us live. And you tell me why Greg McElroy isn't right and the CFP isn't wrong. Here we go.
You know who should be ahead of Texas and Penn State potentially? BYU, who currently sits right now, according to the playoff committee, at number 9. They, of all people, should feel the most slighted right now. They got put behind multiple one-loss teams whose resumes are not nearly as good as BYU's. And people are going to say, this doesn't matter. Yes, it does. But here's the problem. With them being ranked 9th and Boise State being ranked 12th, BYU might have to be undefeated for them to secure a first-round bye. Because if BYU were to lose one here down the stretch, that means that Boise State might be ahead of BYU, which means BYU would not have the benefit of the first round bye. What I also have seen from BYU are 2 wins against teams right now that are ranked by the College Football Playoff Committee. BYU has 2 wins against teams ranked in the top 19, and they are several spots behind teams that have 0 wins in the top 25.
Okay, always college football. Again, that's Greg McElroy, somebody that I really respect, has become somebody, and let me get this off here. It's become somebody that has been that counterpoint on the ESPN show. And I'll get your opinion here, Daniel. Let me bring up what the top 25 was in the bracket. Okay, here's another X I want to copy. I want to make sure, again, we give credit where credit's due. Let me post this link, and then I will show this again. So let me make this bigger. All right, here. And I wonder if it'll even go bigger. All right, so this is the CFP, and in order from the bottom to the top, Texas A&M was left out, but they could earn their way in. SMU is the first team out. They also could earn their way in. Then you go Boise State, Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, Indiana, Tennessee, Penn State, Texas, Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon. And then, of course, what they did with those teams is they put them into the new CFP brackets. And you can see Boise State pulls up. If nothing changes right now, and the playoff was today, this is what it would be. Boise State, Ohio State, first round at Ohio State. Indiana, Tennessee in Tallahassee. Alabama at Texas in Austin. Notre Dame at Penn State at, it's not College Station, Happy Valley, wherever Penn State is.
State College.
State College, thank you. And then those winners play the conference highest rated conference champions, which right today in reverse order are BYU, Oregon, Miami, and Georgia, representing the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC. Okay, so there's a lot of content there, right, Daniel? Yes. You have 90 seconds to tell everybody first your opinion about the bracket as it came out, just itself, and then why it's such a big deal for the Big 12 and the ACC to each only have one team in.
It turns into a beauty contest. It's ESPN saying this is the teams that we want in this playoff. It does not match up to reality. It doesn't match up to how these teams are performing. There's no K-State. There's no Iowa State. Granted, yes, they do have one loss, but all this stuff is going to get thrown into the wash anyway, because by the time everybody's done, there's going to be multiple lost teams. And it all is going to boil down to what ESPN wants, not what is the best team, but what ESPN wants.
So, and we all know, again, more facts. ESPN owns the CFP. ESPN, Disney, ABC owns the CFP. Last year, what happened? Florida State, ACC, 13-0, doesn't play in a 14 playoff. And that was really sort of the canary in the coal mine out there, right? Saying there's something something seriously wrong with the system. Now we come a year forward, everybody thought, well, 12 teams, it'll all be fixed. And it just continuation of the same.
Exactly. And like I said, this all boils down to ESPN's looking, okay, what is the viewership for K-State? What's the viewership for Iowa State?
Right.
BYU has pretty good viewership, but oh yeah, by the way, we think that these teams will get us more eyeballs. This is all that boils down to.
Well, at the end of the day, the argument, and I even had said this on Twitter before the CFP came out in the preceding week or so. I said, look, win and you're in, right? If you win, you go undefeated, you're in the top 4, you're in the game. At the end of the day, the seeding 1 to 4, they're all good teams at that point. But that's a little misleading because BYU, and here's another one. Actually, I'll wait till you gets here. I don't want to get too deep into this. But because obviously his opinion, especially as a statistician, really, really makes a difference. Not that ours don't, but it's just one other data point we can lean on. But the idea that it's the Big 12 and the ACC only have one team in, BYU loses or Colorado wins, Colorado gets in, but whoever they beat is going to have a loss or more than one
Yes.
loss at that point. And ESPN, they didn't basically say it. They actually said the words, whoever loses the Big 12 championship, unless a lot of stuff changes in the poll right now, are going to get left out.
Well, you remember the old BCS where they had that computer algorithm, and then I want to say coaches poll
today, because then it wouldn't be eye test, it wouldn't be any of that
Yes.
crap. It'd just be computers.
Yes, but they're not going to go by computers. They're going to go by this is who we like, and the words quality loss is going to be bantered about whenever it comes down to some of these 2 loss teams. Alabama's they're going to sit there and say, oh, those are quality losses, losing Tennessee and Vandy.
Well, I mean, I obviously what you're saying is a fact, right?
Yes.
But the thing that really bothers me, and everybody knows, right? I'm not just some dumb guy sitting here. I actually, not only have I put in hundreds of hours, nobody else has done in my head, right? Hundreds of hours I've done trying to be more than just a guy with an opinion. I know people that are industry titans, reporters, executives that I can lean on for support, ask questions. And I'm telling you right now that unless the ACC and the Big 12 win some games in the CFP, in 5 years, they may be a one-bid league forever.
Yes.
There is the idea, and they talked about this during the offseason, they go to 16 teams. Big 10 and SEC get guaranteed 4 slots. I love that because 2 slots each would go to the ACC and the Big 12. I would love that situation to be true because if you get 2 teams in now, you have obviously that much more chance to win a game, get more eyeballs, and get more attention to the conferences.
Exactly. And a lot of this is going to end up, like I said, this is what ESPN wants. ESPN didn't want Florida State last year because their quarterback got in.
Yeah, that was just an excuse.
Yeah, that was a load of crap. Yeah. So it's all what ESPN wants. It's all what they think are going to be intriguing enough matchups to get people to turn the TV on.
So I just want to highlight this guy because he is a new. Well, I won't go into his history. I'm going to have him at dinner at my house next week, or we're going to go out to a nice restaurant. But Luke, Titan of UK on Twitter, he's from England, and he's coming in, and he's going to watch the Kansas game next week here in Provo for BYU. He's cool. He picked up BYU as a new football team last year in England, which, not that doesn't happen every day. And him just coming and watching the show, I really just wanted to say thank you. And I appreciate you, Luke, and keep doing what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Let's do some more shout outs. You okay with that, Daniel?
No problem.
All right, let's do it. Let's start. We'll get going while we're waiting for Ute. Ute had family stuff, so that's always more important. Timothy Green, first in the house. Good to see you, Timothy. I miss you being a member, I got to say, but it's great to see you. I appreciate you being here. I think BYU pulls this one out, folks. We're going to talk Holy War, obviously, when Ute gets here. We'll do that a little after the CFP. But, I don't know. I'm not going to spoil it. I've got some stuff I want to run it by you. We haven't spoken, just so everybody knows. We didn't coordinate anything tonight, so it's going to be all fast and furious. There's Daniel saying hi, everyone. Appreciate that, Daniel. Clay Johansson, go blue. Michigan could be a spoiler. Michigan could be a huge spoiler for Indiana this week.
Michigan hasn't looked good, though. So
no, they haven't. And Indiana has looked very good. Antoine Codes, another OG member. Good to see Antoine. Says hi, all. Good to have you here, Antoine. I really appreciate. Arizona State, keep winning. I would love for you guys to only have 2 losses when you play BYU. I would absolutely love that. Follow that up. He says the fact that Boise has a chance to pass the Big 12 as the 4 seed says a lot about what the committee thinks about the Big 12. There's no doubt about it. Boise State's the darling. Absolutely no doubt about it. Caleb Ramirez representing Ohio State. Moen's not here. He says, hi, everyone. Good to have you. we did have a little bit of a scheduling thing. I apologize if you guys thought we were going to come on at our regular time. We're starting earlier tonight. It's going to be fast and furious. It's going to be the fastest hour and 45 minutes we have on this show ever, I think, because of the Holy War stuff. But yeah, I appreciate everybody adjusting and joining us with us now. He follows that up by saying, I thought you guys started at 8. No, we started at 6. Sorry about that. Becky Go Huskies, valuable member of the Mafia family and a contributing editor, we'll call her. BYU is fine. At some point, positioning is more important than seeding. Becky, I would counter that, and we'll talk about it in a bit. This first poll is going to set the paradigm for all the other polls.
It always does.
It has a huge effect. A huge effect. That's why all these creators went on Twitter right after the show last night, right after this, even during the show, and posted. We had Tim Brando posted something. We had Josh Pate posted something. All these creators are basically saying, just like Greg McElroy did. We'll do that in a bit. Clay follows up saying BYU is fine. Too early to worry about seeding. I can't. It's not about seeding, Clay. Don't lose.
It's about getting the second team in.
It's about getting the second team in and having BYU ranked as high as possible as the starting point, not for BYU, but for the Big 12. BYU is the proxy for every Big 12 schools. Even if you're a K-State fan, even if you're an Ohio State fan, you want BYU to be ranked third. Because when BYU falls and you keep winning, Iowa State keeps winning and even starts thumping people, now all of a sudden you're in a strong conference because BYU was starting ranked third. Does everybody get it?
Yes. Look at like the AP or coaches poll at the beginning of the year. I think they should never do a preseason poll.
I completely agree with you.
How many of those not receiving votes at the preseason all of a sudden try to claw their way up into the top 10?
Exactly. Well, that's what BYU's done the whole season.
Yeah, yes. They get ignored.
Yep, I agree. I have a counter to that, by the way. The BYU problem has a solution. We'll talk about it when you get here. Sam Kim, Iowa State needed to stay undefeated. Yeah, that was a disaster. Big 12 likely one team. That's a disaster. ACC, slightly better chance for two teams. I would argue the ACC is exactly the same as the Big 12. I don't care what it looks like on the polls or anything else. Unless something massive changes in the SEC and the Big 10, like some big upsets, I think what you're seeing right now is almost exactly what it would be. There was one nice light. Notre Dame was ranked 10th.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm dead serious about that.
I know.
That means if Notre Dame loses one more game, they're more than likely out. That's what that starting position means. 10 says if Notre Dame would have been 5th, they lose another game, say they lose to Army, they could still possibly be in because they started 5th. 10th, you do the numbers, everything shifts around. Now you have a second loss. So Notre Dame, you better keep winning or you're out, in my opinion. Devil Frog, the original Mafia. We really needed a BCS system to take brand bias and recruiting rankings out of the equation. Eye test. Okay, he said eye test. Right?
Yeah.
Eye test. I wanted to crawl in to my 1983 BYU football hat. I wanted to crawl in because eye test is what killed BYU for 30 years.
Yes. And everybody says eye test this. It's not. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is what ESPN thinks is going to make them money.
Thank you, Daniel. That's it. Yeah. Clint Moses says, reminds me of the Pac-12 treatment. It's exactly like the Pac-12, Clint. If the Pac-12 had stayed together, they would still be a one-bid league because of the way that it's structured. So if they say you'd taken the 31.7 that the Big 12 got and say the Big 12 got one relatively close to that, the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC would continue to be the exact same because the Pac-12 was the ACC. The ACC and the Pac-12 were identical in the way they were built, the way they were structured. There he is. How are we doing?
What is up? How y'all doing?
We're doing good. I'm already on adrenaline. It sounds like you're a little tired. You doing okay?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm doing great here.
All right. Very good. We're just doing shout outs.
Yep.
We talked to you saw the show when we started. So we'll do shout outs and then we'll get to CFP, okay?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's see. Yeah, I just did that one. Antoine Codes, I'm not sure winning a game or two in the CFP does anything for the Big 12. I actually talked to somebody who knows what he's talking about, and he said it does. If the Big 12 does not win any titles, it has nothing to do with titles, winning playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about winning the national championship, right, you?
No way. You just need to win playoff games, big-time games, games like Penn State, West Virginia. Like, that was the kind of game you need to win. And it's playoff games have the most importance, but really it's out-of-conference games too. We had a lot of opportunities in Big 12 country to win games, and we didn't do it. And so that just makes the narrative worse and worse and worse. And until you win the big games, then you're going to be thought of as like a B tier, guys. That's just how it is. There's no way around it. You got to prove it. It's not going to be given to you.
Tell me what BYU's rank would have been if Kansas State and Iowa State lost or won last weekend.
Probably 9.
You don't think they'd be higher?
No.
Oh, I do. I think they'd be a little higher.
I think that BYU is getting totally disrespected for really 2 reasons. And you hit on it before, Nate, like the preseason expectations.
Yes.
When you're picked second or third to last in the Big 12,
yep,
then that kills you. Like, you're not even close to the top 25 preseason. And all the chatter all year and stuff is how you guys are going to have 4 or 5 wins in BYU land. And it doesn't manifest like that, but it gets stuck in people's minds and it paints perceptions. Hard to beat that. And second off is just you looking at the sheer recruiting rankings. BYU is number 82 in the talent composite in all of the FBS. And so really when you're looking at that, you're stacking that against Ohio State or in Penn State, like that's what's going on right here. It's just perceptions, preseason expectations. That's it. So I don't care who BYU's beat. This is the unfortunate thing too. If Utah were in that position at 8-0, where Utah was in like number 12 or 13 preseason, Utah would be a top 5 team.
I agree.
Same exact resume. It's all about perceptions and preseason expectations. And perceptions.
Yep.
100%. That's it.
You were talking about recruiting. How many top 5 classes did Texas A&M have and did absolutely nothing?
Right, and they always started in the top 10 and always fell out. Yes.
You can have great talent on paper, but how well you coach it up is what makes it successful.
Perception.
I totally agree with you, but you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt if you don't have a good recruiting cycle, and you don't have a good talent composite. But Texas A&M, they sucked and everything. But if they ever got hot and everything, everyone would say, "Oh gosh, there's a lot of talent on that roster."
Yep.
Oh, there's a lot of talent. That's going to be the narrative that's spun. And BYU is working completely against that. And frankly, the Big 12 is too, guys. That's part of the narrative because the recruiting rankings aren't nearly up to par, according to the P2. Very similar to the ACC, most schools in the ACC. But that's the problem going on with BYU right now. So BYU could have beat almost anybody, and they're probably going to get stuck at 8 or 9 or 10.
So I agree with everything you said. And I think at the root of all of them is the starting position. It's where they were at ranked expectations at the beginning of the season. I completely agree with you with Utah. I think Utah would be 5-6. There is that chance that they get 6, but I think closer to 5 to start out. Actually, no, if we really, we'll break down Utah a different day. We don't have time to do that, but we will. And I think we'll dive into those numbers. And in my opinion, I think Utah would be probably 3 right now. They'd be ahead of Miami, and they'd be the 3 seed. So we'll talk about at a different. We don't have time for tonight for rivalry, but at the end of the day, it's Big 12, Big 12, Big 12. That's what we got to be talking about. Carla Jenkins, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Antoine Codes, the Big 12 is the only power conference without a playoff championship, especially with ESPN. Yeah, you got it. That's exactly right. There's no other way to put it. Clay Johansson says Bomber, Michigan in 2021. I think we wasn't even ranked, and then we made the Final Four. You're in the Big 10, Clay.
And you have the name Michigan. Yeah,
I mean that you have a brand. You're a blue blood, so there's nothing. Yeah. I appreciate your comment, though. Thank you for being here. Illini Ted, another member, valuable member. By the way, if you want to become a member of the show, if you're watching on Twitter, you're watching on YouTube, it's really important to us that you subscribe. to the channel on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and get involved. We're an involved show. It's not about our opinions. We do get opinions from other people. We love the interaction, though. You and I especially are here for you, and we want to do everything we can to supply product that matters to your day to day. And tonight's show is one of those times. So please subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and then if you want to be generous, we can always take a little money, become a member, or super chat. Those are always great, and we always prefer super chats. Always read them. Don't miss them, and we'll get your comment out there. This show is going to be the fastest now hour and a half in your life, and if you don't buckle up and do it right now, you probably won't be a part of it. Hey guys, Indiana and BYU are the prototype for how the committee will most likely treat P4 teams. I agree with that. Going forward, that are having amazing years, but have been down in the near past, which is what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And Indiana's suffering from this too. It's just not going to be as bad because they're in the Big Ten. If Indiana was in the Big 12, it'd be even worse.
Yeah, and what did you think? Did you watch the show live?
I didn't watch it live.
Did you watch the show later, like on Twitter or something? Did you watch the show? Or did you just see the post?
I saw the reactions. I saw the poll after. I read some articles. So I didn't see like what ESPN put out.
They set up the show. Booger McFarland, I can't remember, Reese Davis, the other analyst, and then Greg McElroy. And to start the show, before they even put one team in any bracket, Booger McFarland's first statement is, Indiana's disrespected. They need to be higher in the poll. That's how the show started. And he kept saying, even when Greg McElroy defended BYU in the Big 12, he stepped on him again, said they're disrespected. Indiana's better. They should be higher in the poll. That's how the show started. That was the premise of Booger McFarland's entire show. And he got 5 times the press than Greg McElroy did. Absolutely insane. Indiana already did that. I apologize. We're cruising through these. Let's see. Anthony Eason, good to have you here. Welcome to the show. Even with one loss, SMU's resume is better than Indiana's. SMU is a good football team, but I think Indiana's better. If they played right now, I think Indiana would beat them. They're more solid, top to bottom. SMU has some athletes, though.
How would you like a world where SMU ends up in the playoffs year one in the ACC?
Well, it could be BYU and SMU.
Certainly could.
And that would help break those barriers. Either that or they'd change the rules. Like after BYU won the national championship, the very next year they changed the way the polls ran. The coaches poll and the AP, they started doing different things. They don't like people going against the system. So let's see. Is there one more new one? Yeah, let's do one more from Carla. Yes, but SMU is in the ACC, and last year, 2023, it was a group of 5. Yes, that's the point, Carla. You're exactly right. Okay, so let's quickly bring up the poll again, just so everybody can see it. Add to stage. Here we go. We already sort of broke this out. Is there any one thing outside of BYU and SMU in the Big 12 and the ACC that you wanted to bring up here, Ute?
We really need to change this narrative in Big 12 country that the parity is a good thing. I'm serious. Like, I am so sick of hearing it from Big 12 country saying, this conference is so good, the quality is so good, and the parity is so good, it's going to lift us to another level. No, it is not, guys. I lived in the Pac-12 for 12 years, and that's what killed the conference.
Yes.
When you have a bunch of parity, nobody nationally gives a crap about your conference. They think you're mediocre and marginal. And that's exactly how it's going to go. That's how it was for the Pac-12. That's how it is for the Big 12 now. So this new narrative that's forming, that McMurphy article that came out that's saying Boise State might have a chance to jump the Big 12 championship. Dude, that's embarrassing.
Yep.
That's an embarrassment. That's a shame. It's a joke.
Yep.
I don't want to hear parity anymore.
Yep.
If that's even going to be a conversation, we need to eliminate it completely. It's an absolute joke. Like, this conference needs some juggernauts to form and beat the crap out of everybody else and win some playoff games, and not just have like nice 6-6 records so Big 12 country can just enjoy it. We need to think larger than just Big 12 country and look nationally. We need to build some freaking juggernauts and win some games. And we got to eliminate the stupid narrative that Boise State, our G5, can jump us in a playoff spot. That's so sick and wrong, guys. Like, we are way out of bounds if we think it's okay to have that kind of parity. And so I'm fed up with it. I've heard it a lot, and it needs to stop now with just this conversation.
Whenever I hear parity coming out, oh, look at the Big Ten, it's wide open. Look at the SEC, it's wide open.
Parity in those conferences don't
they
matter.
talk parity in those conferences,
Right.
and nobody blinks an eye. But whenever they say parity with the Big 12, everybody just rolls their eyes and says, oh, wow, who cares?
So, and I apologize. I didn't mean to break in on you, Daniel.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry about that. So the past year and a half, we as a team built parity up as a benefit. That is why I'm trying to explain to everybody why the emotion is so big in Wild Ute, because we did that and we are being crucified for it. Everything that the story was, and this came from the Big 12, by the way, started with Brett Yormark, that we have so many good even schools that it will circumvent and climb us over the polling, which is basically where we're at. This is identical to the AP poll. The only thing different is Ohio State and who are the Ohio State and another school were flipped, just one spot. This is the AP poll. So parity, I trumpeted it. Ute knows. I've been talking about that since the very beginning. And now we're seeing, and that's why when did we change? Was it 2 weeks ago, Ute, where I said the Big 12 needs 4 or 5 brands?
Yeah, I mean,
and you said something similar,
like that, yeah.
Right?
I've been on this since day one because the Pac-12 died because of this conversation.
Right.
And so I've been on this, and people have been fighting me saying, hey, the Big 12 is so fun to watch. The XFL was too, guys, but no one took it seriously. And that's exactly what's going to happen to the Big 12 unless there's juggernauts to form this conference. I'm serious about that. Like, you can't have it. And like when Boise State, the conversation, the narrative conversation, we've lost the battle if there's even a conversation about Boise State jumping the top Big 12 team.
Yes.
That conversation itself is a failure.
Yep.
That's spinning a new narrative and perception that's hard to beat. So this needs to change, guys.
And what this says is BYU loses in the conference championship game, a 12-1 power conference in a 12-team playoff. They're more than likely out, and whoever wins the Big 12, I don't care who it is, has to win out. And one loss, co-champ, not co-champ, but team lost the championship game. In every other situation would be 12-1. Okay, we'll put them as the first seed out on as 8 or something like that. Instead, they're going to be completely how tell me this with Boise State, because that's what sticks in my head. BYU, let's just say BYU, because they're the exemplar, they're the undefeated. Colorado makes it to the championship game, beats BYU. BYU's 12-1. Boise State, okay, we have a lot of Boise State fans here. We have a lot of Mountain West and Pac-12 fans here. And Ute and I, everybody knows we support Boise State. It's not against Boise State as a competitor. This has to do with what is right, essentially. And what could happen is they win the Mountain West Conference. Okay? I'm going to say that again with all humility. The Mountain West Conference, Boise State wins that thing is what? They would be 12-1. So their quality loss, it's a loss, but they're calling it a quality loss to Oregon by 3 points, is worth more than an undefeated season in a power conference that loses in the championship game. So if we were doing a math problem and we said X plus Y equals Z, and then you did X plus X equals, Z, they're not the same, but they are the same. I mean, what world are we living in? Are we seriously having this conversation?
I think that we need to accept the reality, and that's what nationally folks think of the Big 12 right now.
Also,
like, Big 12 country, like that's just the truth. Like you have to beat perceptions. You can't lose big games. We already did lose big games beginning of the year. And I'll tell you what, if Boise State gets the 4 seed and say the Big 12 champ gets the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 seed, they lose in the first round without even making it to the quarterfinals. Do you know how that narrative is going to absolutely just nosedive into a realm that we don't even want to talk about? Like this is not good. And so we've got to fight that narrative, that conversation, just fight back at that. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't be happening, like you're saying, Nate.
Also, how much of this is ESPN, etc., wanting to highlight Genty there at Boise State?
But the problem
because
is
he's probably, if he doesn't win the Heisman, he's definitely going to be in New York.
The counter to that is he's one player.
Yes.
On a team in a conference that, by every other definition, is sub.
True.
So you have a one kid that is an amazing athlete that is carrying an entire team. By the way, this one kid is not all the stars that are on Colorado, right? Their quarterback's having a good year, but their team as a whole, where's the competition comparison? By the end of the season, the Big 12 is going to be much higher than anything in the Mountain West will be. The Mountain West has Boise State, then way down a bit, then UNLV, then way down a bit, Colorado State. How do you put that up against Kansas State, Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, BYU? I mean, how are those are not equal?
How's this sound? This is my conspiracy theory. Undefeated BYU playing Colorado. Colorado still loses, but because of the prime effect, they'll get the playoff spot.
I don't think if they're 2 losses, I don't think they get a spot with 2 or 3 losses without winning the championship. I'm serious. I'm dead serious about that. I think they don't.
Coach Prime gets gets people to watch TV.
Yeah, so that's a matchup one. This is the top 25. And where are they? Tell me where Colorado is right now on this. They're number 20. So you're telling me a 2-loss Colorado 3-loss Colorado doesn't win the Big 12 is still going to be on TV? I mean, still going to be in the playoff? I don't think so. If they don't win the championship, they don't get in.
Also, it depends on who else loses. Let's say that LSU gets a couple more losses. A&M, Ole Miss.
I don't think you need that much help, honestly. They cannot finish with 2 wins unless they win the championship game. So
I'll tell you what, if BYU loses a game, we're in big trouble as a conference if Boise State wins out.
Totally true.
Even at 1-loss BYU,
might
not be able to jump Boise State.
Yeah.
Look at everybody else. Iowa State's hanging out with K-State and CU, in the 16 to 20 range.
Yep.
What win is going to boost them ahead of Boise State, who's number 12 right now? It's not going to happen. Seriously, BYU going undefeated might be the only way that we get the 4 seed in the Big 12.
I agree. Unless it is Colorado. I would say the exception would be if Colorado wins out, they would get the 4 seed over a 1-loss Boise State. Yeah. But what's ironic is the $31.7 million, half of that or 2/3 of that amount is ESPN. So they're undercutting their own product. And the Mountain West is a Fox partner. So it's not like you could even say it has anything to do with broadcast rights for the Mountain West. It's all a narrative. And the very first question was, why explain BYU? And the guy goes, eye test. And explain Boise State. They have looked so good. Man, we're impressed with them. 2 answers in the same interview.
This is who Boise's got left. Nevada.
They're not worth talking about.
No. I mean, it's pillow soft is what they have left.
That's what you're saying. It's absolutely ridiculous. So let me get to this next thing. We can't get to that because we're going to start Holy War in just a bit. So at the end of the day, let's just sum up this. And then we'll go through some questions. You guys keep leaving the questions. We're marking them. We're going to try to get through the show. Normally we do a ton of QA. Today we've got so much to talk about, probably won't make it. But keep your questions coming. We're marking them and using them. We will ask back like in just a minute. And then if you want your comment or question to get out, please make it a super chat. That way I'll make sure we get to it. So I'm going to work backwards through these. I apologize. There were a lot of good comments earlier, but I want to stay current with what we're talking about right now and not lose the thread. Becky Go Huskies again says SMU is on a path to play Miami. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Black Rain, the ACC and Big 12 might have to start their own championship. Nope.
Not enough money.
Definitely. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's perception. If you start anything else, you're mid, you're sub. They'll just leave you. They have no incentive to stick with you. Black Rain, SEC and Big Ten have the TV networks behind them, so nothing you can do. If an undefeated FSU got locked out, then it's not about the brand.
Now, this is my question. ACC is an ESPN product. Why didn't ESPN want to highlight their own product?
That's what I'm saying.
I've never figured that one out.
They're undercutting their own product. I have no idea. But they own the ACC network. Talk about undercutting your own product. It just tells you the SEC. Here's a good question for you, analytics. What do you think the value of the SEC is compared to the ACC? Do you think it's a 10x? Or is it something like crazy, like a 30 or 40x?
On the surface right now?
Yeah.
With the ACC uncertainty that's still going on, it's pretty substantial. Like it's 25x.
I think.
So So what ESPN's doing is feeding the healthy gorilla.
Yes.
They're getting huge ratings out of the SEC. They're going to feed that gorilla until it doesn't produce anymore. And all the other funding ACC content, it's not worth it based on their own analysis, return on investment analysis to boost up ACC as much, nor Big 12 as much. That's why it's all going to the SEC. I think it's that much, guys.
Dan, you have an opinion?
I agree with them. I 100% agree.
Okay. I think we're all agreed. At the end of the day, I was trying to find my tweet. I thought I marked it that I sent out that it had all the creators on it. I got Tim Brando to respond to a Holy War question. I've had some interactions back and forth, but I seem to have lost the thread on that one I was going to use. So we'll just do a few more comments here. Carla Jenkson's, it would be ESPN putting Boise over the Big 12 is essentially saying that without a playoff championship, there's no difference. I've had a feeling that switcheroo is coming. Let's talk about Washington State. So Washington State is ranked where on this list? I'll tell you where, right there. And they talked about Washington State by itself. They didn't talk about Louisville. They didn't even talk about Clemson. But they talked about Washington State and Boise. It's just remarkable. Let's see. Illini Ted, Boise State as a top 4 seed over an upset Big 12 championship winner would be the ultimate slap in the face.
100% right. That's the ultimate fear too.
Unless it's Colorado.
I think Colorado could get it. Well, again, if they don't know, Colorado can only get in via the conference championship.
That's what I mean. If they win
they're
the
not going to
championship, they'll be a 4 seed.
Yeah, they're not going to bring Colorado. If you're a Colorado fan or in that region, Colorado right now is 7-2. With another loss, they would have 3 losses, and they're not even sure a 3-loss Big Ten team's going to get in. So there's no way in hell a Big 12 second team would get in. That just would not happen.
Colorado's 6-2.
Are they? So 6-2, they finish. Mm-hmm. They make it to the championship game. They would be 10-2, and they either win and go 11-2, or they lose and they're out. It's win and you're in. That's basically it. Becky Go Huskies. If BYU loses in the title game, that game gets the berth. That's the conversation. That's what we want.
What's interesting too is like SMU plays Miami. What if SMU beats Miami in the title game?
Right.
the ACC championship. Then all of a sudden you're going to have a non-conference winner in Miami versus a non-conference winner in BYU, and Miami's 5 slots ahead of BYU right now.
Yes.
That's a problem. And so it just depends on the lay of the land.
And
Miami, BYU, that's not a guarantee to get in the playoff if you lose championship game, even if you go undefeated.
If it's a call between a 1-loss BYU, a 1-loss Miami, I can guarantee you what the guys in Bristol, Connecticut are going to pick. It's easily Miami. Yes.
Right.
Okay, so let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay, I'm going to take a chance. If the show gets shut down, just so everybody knows, if the show gets shut down, it's because ESPN is flagging me. But I'm going to do this Greg McElroy rant, which to me is one of the top 10 rants I have ever seen. So give me a second here. I want to set this up. If you haven't seen it, you're going to be very entertained. All right, here. I need to put it on the right time. So this is during the show, okay? Show just started. Booker McFarland just said Indiana's disrespected. Indiana should be 4 or 5, okay? So that's the premise. All right, here we go. Watch and enjoy. Here we go.
I'm a little frustrated. If I'm BYU, I'm really upset. All right, first and foremost, one, I run the risk of not securing a first-round bye if Boise State ends up in front of me. So the fact that there's only a margin of 3 spots between 12 with Boise State and BYU at 9 is ridiculous. Also, I'm sitting there behind Texas.
It's ridiculous.
I'm sitting there behind Texas.
They're laughing at him.
I know.
There behind Texas.
They are absolutely laughing at
I'm
him.
also sitting there behind Tennessee. Texas and Penn State don't have a win against the top 25 team. I have 2. So if I'm BYU, and guess what? I haven't lost. So if I'm BYU, I'm a little frustrated with how this thing has shaken out. I know it's early, and I know there's still on the table, and they have to go to Utah this week. I get that. But I just feel like this being at 9, have no wins even close to what they've accomplished, and no loss, and a couple losses they don't have, he would be remarkably frustrating.
Okay, look, people. He works for ESPN, okay? He works for ESPN.
And he's an SEC guy.
And they laughed at him.
Mm-hmm.
To even bring up the topic, all 3 of them laughed at him.
So, an SEC guy defending BYU. I mean,
And he's there's more of them. It's not just him.
Yes.
But
And
I want to be clear. It's not just BYU they're disrespecting.
it's a
They
whole
are
conference.
disrespecting the Big 12. And this is the question everybody has to answer. If they end up out, if Boise State gets that spot, the perception will do damage that will last decades. Decades. So now let's ask you just an open question. We're not going to talk about this tonight, but now how you feeling, Big 12, about possibly using private equity to bring in big brands from the ACC? How do you feel now? Nobody wanted to spend money. Everybody thought, no, it's not worth it. Now somebody's looking for a billionaire that's willing to write a check to buy those schools out of the ACC contract. Billions of dollars, people.
Here's the problem. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but you shot your shot, right? You at least tried.
Yeah.
Right now, you're
dead. We'll see how this season goes. We'll see how this end of the season goes. It's not looking good right now. It's moving in a way we don't want it to move. And the conversation alone, the laughing at Boise State, like being a couple spots behind BYU, they're laughing because they think that basically they're the same team, right? That there's no difference between a BYU and a Boise State. There might even be giving BYU or Boise State the benefit of the doubt, saying they're the better squad. That's basically what they're implying there, right? With their laughs and their jeers and jitters and everything. So we've got a big perception problem, a big one that's existing now. It's rough, guys. Like, I don't know how it gets much worse. to be honest with you. Like, we'll see what happens. But like, this conference needs to take a lot of risk to get to the level where we want it to get. And we got to do it. Like, there's just no doubt about it and everything. If you keep the status quo, then this narrative is going to persist unless you win these big games. But we're behind the 8 ball with recruiting and a lot of things. It's hard to see us win just big games out of nowhere outside of just sheer luck, to be honest with you. Like, who in the Big 12 right now could beat Georgia, guys? Like, honestly,
In
like,
a
1 out of 10. Like, don't say they're going to win every time. Like, we're just going to dominate most of the time. It's just
but in a one game situation. Look at the
obviously
NCAA
a playoff's
tournament.
different.
Yeah. Look at the NCAA tournament. You see little guy go in there beating big guy.
But basketball is not football.
No, it is not.
Yeah, you can't equate them really. But
let's say that how often does a 14 beat a 3? Not often.
Well,
maybe once or twice in a 10-year period.
I would argue in basketball it happens 10 times more than it does in football.
Of course,
basketball,
yes.
I mean, you can build a team in a year. Like BYU's team probably is worth BYU's basketball team is probably worth about $5 or $6 million they spent to bring in the number one. He might be the best guard in the country. He might be the number 1 pick next year. You can do that in football or basketball. Cannot do it in football.
And there's a bigger return on investment bringing in a couple really great 5-star guys because you only got a 50-man roster.
Right. That's fair.
And like, Daniel, the fact that, like, I agree with everything you just said there, but like, you bring up the situation like a 3 seed versus a 14 seed. And I honestly think that's kind of how the national guys think of it. They think of the Big 12 like a 14, 13, 12, 11 seed. And they're like the SEC and Big 10 is a 1, 2, and 3 seed. That's the problem. That's the perception gap that we need to fight. And like, and the solutions are probably like, so if we leave it as is and don't get private equity involved, like, unless somebody in the Big 12 has unbelievable NIL coffers to build a super team akin to like a Gonzaga, in college basketball, where they can just pay a ton of NIL and they make a championship contending team, like SMU, then nothing's going to change unless we get private equity involved. We've got to have other solutions. We need to take more risks to bridge that gap from a 4 to a 13. How can we get that 4 seed playing a 6 or 7 seed rather than the 13 seed in the perceptions of these national guys?
The biggest thing out of the whole deal was the laughing. The laughing. Yes. So many mixed messages in words, but laughing, everybody knows what that means.
Oh, yeah. We know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to a few more comments here. So Kuz is in the house. Justin, I'd like to have you on the show. We're just wall to wall today. In about 10 minutes, about 5 or 6 minutes, we're going to talk Holy War. So stick around. But I appreciate you being here. If you don't know Kuz, Kuz Corner, YouTube, find him on Twitter. And he's been a super partner for the Big 12 College Football Mafia Network. He says everyone's scared of PE. We are not. But in the general public, during realignment, everybody poo-pooed our idea about private equity. What is there to lose? That's the question. It's not about money. It's about access. It's always been about access. I preached that since the day I started the show and I started my Twitter account. Access is not something that is given to you very easily.
Here's the thing. They're going to want something. And if things...
So you give it to them. Write a check.
What? Here's the thing. Let's say things don't work out as great as they did. What's the collateral in that?
What are you talking? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Let's say that they take a chunk of the TV contract, and the TV contract kind of goes sideways, and viewership number.
I'm still lost.
Let's say a private equity firm.
Right.
Let's say a Sixth Street.
Okay. Whatever. Yeah.
Insert name of whoever.
Right.
Those guys. Let's say that those guys take a percentage of the conference.
Okay.
And the collateral on it is that TV deal.
Fine.
Let's say things go sideways with that TV deal.
How does it go sideways? It's a term.
It's
ends?
a term, but at the end of that term, let's say that at the end of that term, it doesn't get renewed at the same amount.
Okay.
And that private equity firm still wants that same amount or expects that same amount because they gave up blank amount of money to get that equity in the conference.
My answer to that is, what do you have to lose? If you lose money, then you're not. What is it? If you buy a boat, you can't complain about how much it costs to keep it up.
Break out another 1,000.
If you're going to be big boys and you're going to spend money like the SEC and the Big Ten, you have to act like it. You have to subsidize it and put money into it. And if these programs cannot do that, they are going to fall out. And it's going to drop to the top 32, top 40 that can actually do that.
No, you were just talking about, let's say that general fund from insert name of university. I'm going to just say Syracuse.
What? Okay.
Syracuse already right now spends, let's say, $5 million a year subsidizing their athletic program.
Okay, fine.
Why doesn't Syracuse just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to subsidize it at 15 million instead of bringing in private equity? Because that's what
the schools don't want to have to pay that, because the schools have things like buildings, like and trying to advertise for students, and like the schools really don't want to fund the athletic department. They try to keep those separate from each other and stuff. And like the athletic departments in a healthy school, college is self-funded. They don't need any money from the school.
Yeah.
It's its own like business basically.
And if it can't support itself, Daniel, to answer your question directly, if a program cannot support itself, then they will not get the access. They will not be a part of the deal because they can't pay the money. Our deal, our idea with private equity is, if the schools end up losing money to pay the private equity partner, right today, they should be prepared to do that. That's what I'm saying.
But how many Division I FBS programs?
32 to 48.
No. How many of them make money for the whole department?
Nobody. Almost none. They all run at net
zero. It's less than 10.
Yeah, but
no, WVU's one of them. They made $7 million in profit a couple of years ago.
But the problem, I mean, it's not a problem. It's just a fact.
Yes.
What I'm saying, you are a poser school. If you do a private equity deal, it goes sideways. You can't support yourself. At the end of the day, if you end up owing this private equity partner your percentage, let's say $3 million, and you have to give that to them, you need to be able to absorb that. And if you cannot do it, then you will fall to the wayside, because you will not.
Yeah, money's going one way in that deal, guys. Private equity's paying Big 12 for that. And like you said, Daniel, the collateral, what's in it for private equity is the rights to the media contract. So basically they'll pool that, they'll sell it off to different ESPNs, Foxes, and they think they can make more money doing it than the current state of things. So that's what's at play here, is your future media rights for West Virginia. That's the risk. If this thing blows up, then they're going to have access to that. It's basically kind of like a quasi-Gore situation that Florida State's dealing with. You're just doing it with private equity, right, rather than ESPN directly. That's what's in it.
That's what I was saying. That I said it wrong, though.
Yes.
They don't owe the money. The money just wouldn't be paid to them. It would go to the private equity part. I said that wrong. I'm sorry.
And if if the Big 12 blows up and they're no good at all, then the risk is on the private equity firm. They're going to lose their shorts. And like that, there's going to be a length of a contract with the private equity, whether it be 10 years, 15, 20. Right. And private equity will also have a say in Big 12 affairs. They will be a partial owner in these media rights. They'll form a new type of company. Yep. And they will have a seat at the table to make decisions, which might be beneficial for the Big 12 because you have got a really good partner there that's going to try to boost your exposure. And so that's what's in it for the Big 12, is the money aspect and the also partnership aspect to get more exposure. But then on the downside, you're handcuffing yourself because you're signing a new type of Gore that has going to have way more teeth probably, and that you can't escape. So no one's media rights is leaving. So the big risk is for the schools that might have an option to get into the Big Ten or the SEC, they're locked up if they sign that private equity deal. And if you don't have a chance to get into the Big Ten or the SEC, it's a fantastic idea, a no-brainer. But the schools that do possibly, that's where the battleground is internally in the Big 12.
All right, we're going to move on. Bunch of good comments. I'm going to end with this one. Actually, I'm going to do this one. Antoine Code says, at Bomber, the reason I'm using it, everybody knows, you use my name in a comment. I'm vain a little bit. I'm more often going to use that comment, but this is a good one. Big brands don't want to come to the Big 12 for a long-term investment. 2 to 3 years does not help the Big 12. Private equity needs to be used for something else, not to rent FSU and Clemson. And we just disagree, Antoine. We just disagree. The term, it's not about that. It's about being that third conference. That's what it's about. Destroying the ACC as a competitor, possibly getting one of their 2 points, so you get an extra dedicated slot in the playoff, and now it's a Power 3. And buying it, once you're a Power 3, as long as you can keep up those standards, you're not going to lose it. But right now, being Power 2.5 is not helping anybody. Sorry, 1.5. It might as well be Power 0.
Well, right now,
has no worth.
We might have a Power 3 because nobody knows what's happening with the ACC and their TV deal.
Well, and that's what you said, right? Nobody that's a private equity company that comes in and knows what they're doing is going to invest long-term in the ACC today until there's lawsuits, schools want to leave.
Yeah, because you have to sign a contract, and a really, really nasty, sticky contract that's probably more sophisticated than ESPN's contract, because these guys don't mess around. They know what they're doing. They're going to do their due diligence and everything. This isn't just with a media company. Like, they're going to stick you, and they're going to figure out how to stick you and make you stick in the conference or have access to your media rights. So that is the risk. It's not that big a risk, though, at the whole scheme of things. When we're talking about the Big 12, the champion possibly skipped over by Boise State, I think most of us are willing to take that risk. That's what we need to ask ourselves, because what's the upside is a lot more funding comes into Big 12 programs every year. You get more exposure, possibly. You get possibly private equity can be an avenue to work with a different media partner that you might not have had access to before. So the upside is huge, and it might be able to get you to more of that. Again, I'm going to go back to that analogy of the 3 versus 14 seed. Can that get you to 3 versus 7 seed if you're using private equity funding, and the Big 10 and the SEC are unwilling to do so? Maybe so. That is a risk that's probably worth taking for a lot of schools.
They don't have to. Right. They don't have to take that risk. They've already got the money and access.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Again, you said money access. I think it's reverse. I think it's access money, but they do go hand in hand. I'm teasing.
They go hand in hand.
I'm teasing you. Daniel, I'm just teasing.
Exposure. And exposure. They've got everything.
Yeah.
They need to share the wealth. These guys are getting greedy.
They won't.
All right. So we're going to move on. If you're new to the show, let me give you our names here really quick, so everybody can follow us on Twitter and on X. If you're watching on X, feel free to leave your comments. We do read those. But if you want to do a super chat, become a member, which we really, really encourage people to do, or just want to be extra generous, hit that $sign next to the comment section and leave us a super chat. We'll definitely get to that. This next segment is all Holy War. We're going to be doing Holy War right now. I thought about doing a debate, but we're not going to have time. We'll do that at a different time. But tonight is going to be Q&A. Ute and I have not coordinated. Ute has his thoughts on Utah, which you're going to hear in just a second. And then I'll do my part with BYU. We will not debate. We will disagree. Just so everybody knows, that's where we're at.
I do want to ask 2 questions, though.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
So they're
quick questions.
We got everybody follow us on Twitter. You can see it right underneath our pictures. There's our Twitter handles. Follow as many of those as you can. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you're on X, do us a solid. Pop over to YouTube, hit that link, and subscribe. Really trying to build up our subscriber base. And I really appreciate everybody that's helped us to get to where we are right now. All right, let me do comments now. Okay, so Utah, coming off a bye week, lots of news that was held back similar to last year that now fans are finding out about injuries and players that actually aren't doing well, people that have shut down and are doing other things. Just, it's your show too. Take as long as you want and kind of tell everybody, set a context so everybody knows what we're talking about with the Holy War.
Most people know that Utah's had a disappointing season, to say nonetheless. The Utes were expected to win the Big 12. The fan base thought that Utah would take care of business and win the Big 12. There was a lot of confidence and optimism going into the season. We all know that. Utah is on a 4-game losing streak. This is one of the only times I can ever remember the Utes losing this many games. It's been a rough go. It's been a rough sled. The Utes have not won a football game since Oklahoma State about a month and a half ago. It's been forever. It seems like the whole season's passed by and Utes haven't had a win. A lot of the fans they were upset at first. So they went through the stages of grief after the last month and a half, and now it's more of that acceptance stage and really not a lot of optimism in Ute country going into this football game, which makes it interesting and tricky too. On social media, on platforms, Ute fans have been very, very, very quiet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And it makes sense because there's not a lot to really hoot and holler about. I mean, when you're on a 4-game losing streak, what are you going to say? Like Utah, based on 24/7 talent composite, has a good squad, but that hasn't done much for Florida State nor Utah this year. Of course, the Cam Rising injury was a killer. But at the end of the day, the Utes find themselves at 4-4 and facing off versus arch rival nemesis BYU that we've already talked about has had a dream season, really. The Cougars, preseason-wise, based on the perceptions and expectations, were supposed to be one of the lower teams in the Big 12 Conference. It has not manifested like that. They've got great quarterback play. They're a balanced squad. They're a good squad. So it's basically a 180 reversal of what Ute fans would have expected going into this football game. That's just a straight truth, guys. That's laying the table on where the mindset is and everything. So from the Ute perspective, before we get into like the positional battles and like the predictions and everything else, that's laying the table from the Ute perspective. So it's going to be quiet until the game. But I think that some Ute fans are just thinking there's nothing to lose here. There's no Big 12 championship on the line. There's no playoff berth. You might not even make a bowl game. This has become everything for the Utes. This has basically become the Super Bowl after you got eliminated from playoff contention. So really upsetting your arch rival is exactly what Ute fans want, but they're trying to be cautiously optimistic about that, and they're not going to squawk too much. And there's been a lot of predictions and everything that BYU is going to come in-house and beat the Utes soundly by multiple possessions and everything, and I totally get it. BYU's a better squad at the moment and everything, but I will say this game is a weird one. And if you haven't watched the Holy War before, you're going to see there's just weird stuff that happens. It's just one of those games that's so emotional, that magical, weird things, fumbles, just the most wild stuff that you could ever imagine in a football game typically do happen, and it's not usually a runaway for one team or the other. So that's laying it all. Tell us, Nate, what is on the BYU side? What's the mentality? Lay the table from the BYU side.
So it actually changed last night. This is remarkable. We've been preparing for this show. In my mind, prepared how I was going to talk about BYU. For one thing, BYU people are PTSD. Okay, so you might have a few people on social media saying stuff, but in general, BYU people are just basically doing the same thing that Utah is, keeping their heads down. Stay humble has been trending. And, in their heads, that's really a good thing to do. You want to be hungry. You don't want to take anything for granted. That aside now, though, this college football playoff thing, in my opinion, has completely changed the motivation for this team going into the game. The original motivation is the rivalry, the hatred, the jealousy of the success the Utes had in the Pac-12, their recruiting prowess. They've been beating BYU up in Utah recruiting and LDS kid recruiting. So BYU fans going into the game before last night, it was rivalry. And then it was 8-0, which are both great motivations. The college football playoff snubbing and I'm going to use that word very directly, as a 9 when they should have been a 5 or a 6, in my opinion. At the end of the day, that's going to be the motivation. And what is going to change or not change you, and this is possible because Kalani Sitake is not super hyper aggressive on scoring points. The eye test has something that he has never chased. That's not what he's built on. So this team and the coordinators are not built on thumping and destroying and beating like drums opponents. The college football playoff last night came out and used eye test in the assessment for their team. Mm-hmm. Indiana is where they are because they look better, even though in almost every stat they're behind BYU. So looking better matters more even than straight to schedule at this point. So one of two things is going to happen on Saturday. Saturday, they come in, their motivation, in my opinion, is now changed to national recognition and what they're going to do about that. They need to make a decision. Are they going to be hyper aggressive and really try to put points up, but change their character a little bit? Or are they going to do exactly what they've gotten him here with an 8-0 record? I would say relatively conservative. They beat teams by a lot of points, but not because they wanted to score points. It was just so they could win the game and guarantee their spot to be the victor at the end of the day. So this game is going to go two ways. In my opinion, if it's old Kalani, pre-college football playoff, this is going to be a one-score game. There is a chance that if Utah, who has been so bad on offense, like historically bad on offense, if they turn the ball over, BYU is opportunistic. They score touchdowns. But if that does not happen, and in my opinion, at Rice Eccles, that's not going to happen. It isn't a field goal game, but I do believe it's built around a 7 to 10 point margin. And if BYU loses the turnover battle, if they're -1, even 0, if they don't get any turnovers, there is a chance they could lose this game. So we all have to decide, which Kalani are we going to get? The Kalani that now has seen his team disrespected. I don't think it could have been any more broadcast to the world that BYU is lesser than. If somebody can tell me a different method that could have happened, please let me know. But they were stomped on as a conference, as a school, over and over and over again for about 8 hours yesterday. So in my opinion, that could change the game. Go ahead.
At what point does that become a distraction for the game, though?
Exactly.
And that outside noise. Because, yes. I can tell you here's what I know about BYU and Utah. The interconnectedness among the coaching staffs is crazy. Basically, all BYU staff is ex-Utah coaches, right? And Utah is notorious for this, for getting to a level where their playoff is on the cusp and having a game right there and getting sidetracked with game day or some other distraction and losing games that they need to take care of, not to take that next level. And there's been a lot of BYU coaches that have been through that with the Utes that are currently on staff there. And the one thing I would ask BYU fans are you paying enough attention to what's right in front of you? It is the rivalry game and everything, but that's a lot of distraction to be upset with and everything about college football stuff when Utah has nothing at all other than your home game versus the rival and a disappointing season and getting everything to win this football game. That's going to be a really interesting dynamic because it could go, hey, we're just going to get more motivated. We're going to kick freaking butt, or else it could go super sour. And I don't know exactly which one. For the Utes, historically, it's gone sour. It's gone pear-shaped. And they've lost these type of games and everything when all the eyeballs are on them finally. And BYU is being talked about a lot. Even the fact that BYU is being discussed, you know, in top 10 team. There's a lot going on right now in the Cougar program, a lot of recognition that wasn't supposed to be there. And you never know how a team's going to handle that. Are they going to handle that successfully or not? Is that going to be a motivator? Can you focus on your opponent still? Or is it going to be a distraction where you get into a situation you're not prepared for because your head's somewhere else? We won't know that till the game. That is one dynamic in this game that's kind of hard to figure out. But I can tell you from the Utes perspective, the Utes lived this and they've lost games. Like I can think of Oregon last year when Utah got their butts handed to them by the Oregon Ducks when game day was there. And Whittingham and Cam Rising were having good old times and stuff on College game day. And we absolutely got housed because the focus was not there in the game.
I was going to bring that up as an example. There's been several times where Utah finally got the recognition they wanted, and College game day, Fox Noon, something would come along that highlights them, and in general, they folded.
Yep.
Every other time of the year, they just go out and kick the crap out of people, but the minute the lights on them, the pressures change. I completely agree with you, Ute. As a BYU fan, this distraction of the CFP has completely changed how I look at this game. And I did have a question for you, and then Daniel, I'll let you ask a question. If Utah comes out and BYU goes up 21 in the second quarter and just looks, is there any chance this team folds?
Utah?
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be. I'll tell you what, the key to winning this game for BYU is to score fast. Utah has struggled offensively. They're one of the worst offensive teams of the nation. You've got quarterback controversy. Who's even going to start? Nobody truly knows. We'll talk about that more in a second.
Right.
But like, I don't see the Utes in this game. If BYU gets up on them the first quarter by 10, 14 points, I don't think that Utah can play a chase down at all in this football game. So Utah, for the path to victory for BYU in this game is greater than Utah's based on based on how the teams are playing and everything, quarterback play. There's a lot more ways that BYU could win this game versus Utah. In my opinion, Utah's path to victory really is getting up in the first quarter. You cannot be trailing early on. Keep it close, run the football a lot, try to win the turnover battle, and keep it low scoring. Utah has to do that to be in this football game. If BYU starts scoring touchdowns in the first quarter, it's over. I don't think that they can come back. So really, that's one of like a few paths for Utah. For BYU, I mean, they're based on what they've shown, winning late, winning early, and everything. I think that the pathways are a lot larger. There's more room for error for the Cougars in this football game than the Utes.
Completely agree with you. Okay, Daniel, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I got two.
Okay.
And I want both of you to explain it. Nate, I want you to say one thing that Utah does very well. I want you to explain one thing that BYU does very well.
So Utah's 4-4, but 3 of those games were single possession wins or losses. Utah's defense is still, isn't it number 1 in the Big 12, overall defense? Mm-hmm. So you have a team that just like last year, and we won't talk about Cam Rising except to say that the offense was built around him. In fact, there were some quotes, we're not going to get to them, but one of the quotes I found interesting, I'm not sure if it was Kyle or if it was another coach, but they specifically named and shamed the fact at themselves, this offense was built for Cam Rising. That's a quote. So what that means is doing something different was not in the DNA going into the team. It was Cam Rising or nothing. So I think that Utah's defense is, I don't want to say elite, right? They haven't scored a lot of points off turnovers, which has been a problem. They lost to Arizona State because they couldn't score off of turnovers. Arizona State was turning the ball over left and right. Utah couldn't complete a 2-yard pass. So if BYU gets up, I agree with you. If BYU gets up, let's say 17 in the first half, I find it hard to believe that Utah can score enough points because BYU's defense is good. BYU's defense is like 3rd or 4th. So at the end of the day, that's the good thing. Okay,
So BYU as a program this year has a lot of creativity. Seriously. And like, that's not something you've seen from prior BYU iterations. The offensive creativity, and especially the special teams creativity. Like, there's been a lot of trick plays, a lot of just, stuff that BYU showing, like window dressing stuff has worked really well for this squad. So I think that the coaching this year has been really good, especially the special teams. BYU's got a top 25 special teams roster based on efficiency in the nation. So you're looking at creativity, ways to get the ball back and stuff, to convert on fourth downs, to do a trick play here to change momentum. And BYU's been masterful at that this year. Like the obvious ones, the defense. Jay Hill's a mastermind. This defense is fundamentally sound. They're not going to give up a lot of points. They stop the run. So it's going to be hard to score in the Cougars. But I think more than even the defense is just the creativity this year.
All right, Daniel.
Okay. Second one. Since the coaching staffs have been
Incestuous.
Yes. I was going to say poach.
You know what's funny about the incestuous thing is because LDS, polygamy.
Yes.
So I'm a BYU fan. I feel like
you can talk about that one, Nate.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Since the coaching staffs are
wait. All of them are children of Lavelle Edwards at the end.
Yes, they are.
So
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Who do you think that I'm going to ask Ute and going to ask Bomber, who would you want off of Utah staff and who do you want off of BYU staff? And you can't say Jay Hill.
I can't say Jay Hill.
You can't say Jay Hill.
Wait a second. You want him off, or you think they?
No,
I want Jay Hill.
Okay.
That you would want.
Yeah, they want Jay Hill back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't say Jay Hill.
Go ahead, you. Somebody else. You can have Aaron Roderick.
No, we've had him before. I think that will pass. Jay Hill's the guy. He's the one talent I think that's super special. Kalani Sitake was a Utah defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And look, Morgan Scalley for Utah is a really good defensive coordinator too. So it's hard. And like, I would just be looking offensively. And Aaron Roderick, A-Rod, is not a very good coordinator for the Cougars. At least he's had a good season this year, efficiency-wise. But historically, he's struggled a lot. And he has already been Utah's coordinator before we fired him. So I wouldn't say him. I don't know who your special team coach is, but I would take your special team coach. That's who I would take.
I actually don't know who's the special teams coach. Sione Puha. He's defense.
He's an old Ute guy too.
He is, yeah.
Give us him back. Come on, man.
No, BYU needs him. All right. The one Morgan Scalley. If you're asking me, I would like Morgan Scalley to retire tomorrow. He's not going to do that. But he's imaginative. He grew up in system underneath. Jay Hill coached him. So, there's a lot in there. But I think he has a few flaws that are going to be things he's going to have to work around when it comes to the next step when Kyle retires. But if I could get rid of any, it would be Morgan.
Got it.
Okay. I'll give you time for one more.
Okay. My one more question. Who do you think, not counting Lavelle Edwards, what is the one dream coach that you would love to have there at either BYU or Utah?
Go ahead, you.
I want Urban Meyer back.
This is what was funny.
I want Urban Meyer back.
I was there at a landing gear conference at Hill whenever Urban Meyer, that was in
03, 04.
Yeah, 03, yeah. December 03.
Yeah.
And that's whenever Urban Meyer left for Florida. And it was on TV, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to end up, he's going to be in a mess there at Florida, because Florida was a disaster at the time. So I just remember that watching it on TV whenever I was there in Ogden.
If Urban Meyer could commit to 7 years at Utah again, I mean, they could possibly. And come on, hey, we're speculating here, right? We're having fun. Urban's not coming back to Utah.
Yeah.
But if any coach that's out there, just what he did with the program before and what he could do again with it, based on his pedigree in college. I know he's struggled, with issues too, lots of issues. But hey, at Utah, he was clean, but it was 2 years, and it was a special run with Alex Smith. But I think that he could win playoff games at Utah if Urban Meyer came for 7 years.
There's absolutely no doubt that would be the guy. I'd love Andy Reid to be at BYU.
Yeah.
You know why? He is the professional version. He manages games. He trusts his coaches. He is the coach the head coach, but he's built an entire organization underneath him, and they're the best organization in the NFL right now. If he came to BYU, he'd do the same thing. He'd hire the right coordinators. He'd hire the right analysts. But again, there's,
how many years was he an assistant there? Like,
I want to say 3.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's see here. There's a bunch of comments. Boy, I've been marking them, everybody. All right. We're going to have Rush, another West Virginia guy.
Hey.
What's up,
you
guys?
know who this is. Hey, Rush, how are you doing?
Hey.
Doing great. Excited for the good old Holy War.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why we got you here. We want to talk about that. Did you want to say something, Daniel, before you get started?
Nope.
Okay. Everybody, take a second. Bottom of the hour. I've got 25, roughly 30 minutes. Sorry, from here. Yeah, 30 minutes from this second. We've already got all of our comments already marked. So at this point, if you want your comment to be on the show, it'll have to be a super chat, or if you become a new member. Otherwise, we really appreciate everybody watching, and we really appreciate everybody getting in on X and on Instagram, which is pretty cool. So sorry, not Instagram, Twitch. We've got a couple Twitch people watching tonight, which is something that we need to break through on. So follow all of us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and all that. Give us a thumbs up while you're at it, please. All right, Rush, why don't you introduce yourself really quick?
Hello, everyone. Guys, thank you so much for having me, especially Holy War Week. It's an honor. So I like to joke around. Me and my buddy Ryan McIntyre do the Ryan and Rush show, where we do West Virginia sports. Ryan worked for Bob Huggins, is his video coordinator. From my end, I was actually born out in Provo, Utah. I grew up a BYU fan. My parents went there. My brother went there, but I'm the contradiction. I'm the black sheep of the family. Of course, I chose, I guess, the party life. Live in Morgantown, West Virginia. Went to West Virginia, of course, and I went to the game back in, when was that? 2016, when they played each other at FedEx, because that was a local game.
Oh yeah, Washington D.C.
Yeah. That was a great one. My dad made the best joke for that game because he bought tickets from the Alumni Association, so he sat in the BYU side. I sat on the West Virginia side. He was like, it was the battle of lifestyles. He's like, I look at my side, I see 21-year-olds carrying their 2 children down the stairs. I look at your side, I see 21-year-olds carrying 2 bottles of beers down the stairs.
There you go. I love it.
But that was a great game. That was a game actually BYU could have won that. Probably should have won that game.
Should have won it.
And then of course BYU joins the Big 12. I get all excited. BYU's coming to Morgantown. It was the day of my wedding, so I missed that one. But hey, I enjoyed the result there. But was able to check out.
Why are you scheduling a fall wedding? Why are you scheduling a fall wedding?
Oh, dude, it was.
Why?
I know.
That is actually really dumb.
I have been told.
Really dumb.
I've been told many times we. Of course, fell in love with the venue, and COVID backups were still a thing, and
right, okay.
That sort of thing. So it was, I'm doing the glass half full, where I see it as beautiful. It was like my former life of being a BYU fan and my current life of being a West Virginia fan. The same day I got married last year. So of course the result was great there.
I didn't know that you had the BYU affiliation. I've watched your show on and off quite often.
Oh, I appreciate that, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Ryan and Rush have a show. It's on YouTube. It's Ryan and Rush show, right?
Correct. The Ryan and Rush show. Yep.
And if you want to put that in the comment section so people can see it,
right.
Make sure we get that reference over to you. Also, everybody should follow him on Twitter. You can see right there in front of him. All right. Did you listen to Ute and I when we started this a half hour ago?
I caught the last 5 to 10 minutes of it.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So we, talked about each side,
Mm-hmm.
our benefits and some of the things we have issues with. As a third-party observer, and we'll take away the fact that you were here in Provo for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Rush is kind of a quasi BYU fan to me.
Yeah, I don't know. When we first met, he's like, "I'm from Provo," and he's introducing, and then I go, "Okay, that's cool. So you're a BYU fan?" No, I'm not.
I went to West Virginia. BYU was my first love. You know how it is. It was everyone knows their first love.
Look, I'm teasing you. It's fine. Russ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So, third-party observer. We're not going to talk about national attention,
Sure.
and all that stuff. Just this particular game, this season, in this moment with these teams, what do you think? What do you think about the whole thing?
So before the season would start, you think it would be the opposite, right? Utah would be on their way. Yes. Yeah. And BYU would try to come in and play spoiler. But hey, that's why they play the games. That's also why they say football's not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. And injuries are a thing. Look, it seems like, and I picked up kind of the part where when Utah's had kind of some national attention, they've fallen under a bit. I think it's been the same with BYU. Growing up as a BYU fan, it seemed like we'd always get some sort of national spotlight and then it's gone, right? Yep. And so that's my biggest concern about this game is, and it's kind of funny because I've faded BYU every week to this point. So I'm trying to reverse jinx it from.
Hey, don't fade them again, Rush.
No.
You can't afford that. We need every advantage as possible.
No, I believe in karma. Don't do that. Stick to what you're doing.
No, fair enough. Here's the thing, though. Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, and we need BYU to go deep into the playoffs too.
Well, let him finish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let him finish.
Let's not jinx him.
Here's all I'm saying here. It's a rivalry game. Throw out the record books. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anything. We've seen the Holy War come down, and I'm so glad the Big 12 was able to resurrect it because I'm really happy that now with conference realignment and more national attention. I know little people were upset this game's at 10:15. I personally love that it was at 10:15 because I grew up on the East Coast and BYU usually played at 10:15. So I would, watch a full day of college football. Then it was like, it's time for BYU. And I think Yormark did a good job of putting in that. And of course, it's prime time for you guys out west as well. From a BYU standpoint, and there is a little bit of bias there, I'm very concerned. I think especially Wilson for Utah, this is his opportunity to be like, do the anti Zach Wilson, do the anti his brother, right, and come out here and be like, I chose Utah to kind of form my own identity. And here's the thing, on paper, it makes the most sense for BYU to win. They've been great. I know, we talked about Roderick and he's having an unusual season. Yeah. In a good way. Like, it's like, wow, he's actually looking like a decent offensive coordinator. We've been waiting for this for a while.
Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, no kidding, right? What scares me about this game is I could see BYU kind of driving the field. They've been doing really well in the red zone, scoring touchdowns and not having to do field goals. Yeah. They get to the red zone, and that's when Utah's defense starts. And then they start settling for field goals. And then a little bit of that panic mode starts to set in. And they're like, well, we haven't really been here, but we're the better team. And it's Utah. And then you get tight. And then next thing you know, it's a 30-27 Utah win. I think from a BYU standpoint, really worried about this game.
Okay, now tell us Utah, the exact reverse. How does BYU beat Utah?
Oh, I think I think Utah is so depleted. At this point, and they're giving all that they've had all season, and they're just depleted. As you guys were saying, they have an offense built for someone that's not there anymore, and there needs to have a conversation. I think Utah. I'd be curious. Your take on this is, I know they're going to medical redshirt Cam Rising again for next year, and does it come a point where you just got to move on? Like, you just got to you move on. So I know that's a question, for another time, but I think BYU
can answer it now. That's fine.
That's an easy response. No.
I personally think yes, but
you think it would be smart for him to come back?
For Cam Rising to come back?
He's going to get hurt again.
No. We're saying the same thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think Utah needs to just shed him.
Move on.
Sorry.
Yes,
we thought we thought you were saying we want him in the team next year. That's what we thought.
Oh, no. It's time to move on. It's time to move on. Yes, you can't depend on him. So, So that answers, I guess, the long-term Utah question. I think BYU just keeps doing what they do. They score in the red zone. They do what we've seen they've been doing all season long. Jay Hill's defense looks incredible. It always seems like, I was talking to my uncle. My uncle went to BYU too. We were talking about this a little bit. It seems like Jay Hill, that first series, he plays a little bit of the cat and mouse. Like, he's okay giving up some first downs and maybe a big play or something. Let me see what Utah's trying to throw at me. And then they kind of get suffocated near that red zone. Okay, we give up a field goal on the first drive. So be it, Ben, don't break. All right, we know their game plan. And then we just suffocate them from there. For BYU to win this game, you just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, nothing needs to really be overthought about. They've done an excellent job. I mean, Retzloff, BYU has been incredible. I need to buy that t-shirt. I absolutely love that t-shirt. Wide receivers have been great this year. And then, of course, the running back by committee. It seems like whichever running back has the football, they're taking off for 10, 15 yards. So they just can't get tight. They just got to keep doing what they've been doing and what got them here in the first place. Trust each other. And even if they go down a little bit at first, all right, guys, come on. Let's move on. We'll be okay. So just play cool. Play to win. Don't play not to lose. If I said
okay,
the
so
double negative.
The second follow-on to that is, and we just talked about it. Let me change my banner. So the CFP came out yesterday. We were just talking about noise and motivations and character. These are all those things are in this holy war. Every one of those things is pivotal. You've seen Kalani. You've watched him coach. He is not a put a knife on the throat kind of guy. What was the first question last night? Why is BYU down at the CFP thing? And they said because of the eye test. Indiana just looked better. So tell me, if that's the case, does it change the motivation to win the game? Because that's my concern. All of a sudden it goes from winning the Holy War, being 9-0, to we were just disrespected by the CFP committee. And oh, by the way, BYU has 52 years of PTSD from being disrespected by the polls. So what happens?
So I'll tell you this. If you need more motivation than just the Holy War itself, that's not a good thing. Like you need to be up and ready to go for this game regardless. But yes, BYU has absolutely something to prove here. I'll give Indiana a little bit benefit of the doubt. I think Cignetti's a fantastic coach.
Oh, sure.
I talked about this last year before the season started. I mean, I know Neil Brown went 8-4 last year, but we're still dealing with that cycle of West Virginia is literally the litmus test. If you beat us, you're a good to great team. If you lose to us, you're a bad team. And we're
that. That's
stuck
good.
in the middle. West Virginia is the litmus test.
I'm going to steal that from you.
Good. You can steal it. Just, maybe credit me once in a while. But no.
Of course. Of course.
Once in a while, not every time. But with that being said, is we know what we've had with Neil Brown, even with him overperforming last season. And before that season even started, I'm like, I want Cignetti because his dad was the coach before Don Nehlen here at West Virginia. Curt Cignetti backed up Oliver Luck at West Virginia. Like, there were ties here. And, seeing him do well at Indiana hasn't been great here in Morgantown. We've been quite frustrated with that. So I think I will give the coaching edge a little bit to Indiana and Cignetti. Sitake has absolutely all the opportunity in the world to prove that he is the guy, and he should be the guy this coming year. But listen, if you keep winning, if you beat Utah and you keep winning out, the numbers will adjust themselves. They'll be right. I mean, they do technically have an extra win at 9-0. So if they're one more spot higher, I mean, just win, and that solves all your problems.
And I'm going to let you ask the next question, but just to follow up on that thread, it's not about this poll today. In other words, they win the conference they're in, right? They're the 3 or the 4 seed. That's the dead and burned. 12-0, 9-2 with Colorado. Colorado wins. BYU's 12-1. They pretty much last night said, no, probably not. The ACC and the Big 12 this second are both one-team conferences. So being a Big 12 homer like we are, tell us how a 12-1 BYU gets into the CFP if they lose the conference championship game.
Well, it would go back to Notre Dame losing to NIU and not having the ability to play in a conference championship. They want Notre Dame in there, of course, and they're going to do everything they can. And I'll say this too, do not be surprised. Part of me feels Notre Dame has one more loss in them. I know USC is not what we thought they've been this season, but I could see them playing upset last game of the season. Lincoln Riley's trying to build back his image again. That would be a great way. I know which is crazy. I mean, what a couple years that is. They still have to play Army. And I know they've already played an option team in Navy, but Army is better than Navy.
Okay.
And Army's clean. So I do think that Notre Dame has the ability to lose one more game. But yeah, BYU is going to have to win the regular season, go 12-0. And if they play an Iowa State, a Colorado, a Kansas State in the championship game, it needs to be a close game, and they barely lose. I think a scenario that might help them would be like a Kansas State, where that they've shown that they've already beat Kansas State, and it's kind of Kansas State's revenge.
Right.
I think that would help them the best. But my point is, if they're going to put a Notre Dame team that lost to NIU and didn't play in a conference championship and hold that against BYU, I know we've expanded to 12 teams, but that's negligence. That is pure ratings, and it's actually disgusting. You can't.
You're going to hear the words quality loss.
Yeah, I'm so tired
coming
of
up.
Those terms are ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And that's not a quality loss.
No. And you got to think of it this way: you've got Alabama that's got 2 losses, guaranteed that they're going to get in with 2 losses.
Of course,
you're going to have.
They can't finish with 2 losses though, unless they win the conference. They're going to have 3. Either they're going to be the champion or they're going to have another loss. It's a zero-sum game with these teams that are 11, have 2 in the losses. Unless they win their championship, they're going to have 3 losses. And they play each other. Tennessee has to play Georgia. Tennessee still has to play Vanderbilt.
Yes.
So at some point, there's going to be a 3-loss team that has a major blue blood brand that, in my opinion, right now today, 11-3 Alabama gets in over a 12-1 BYU. That's my point.
Yes.
So go ahead, and then it's Ute's question. Go ahead.
I'll make another. Thanks for letting me jump in. I'll make another point too. A team that's been cheated a little bit is Boise State. I mean, they lost to Oregon. They almost beat Oregon, and they only have them at 12.
Yeah.
What happened? Okay, from 0 to 100, what's the likelihood that the Big 12 does not get the 3 or 4 seed in the playoff and is jumped by Boise State for the 3 or 4 seed?
Yeah, I guess that is a concern.
What's the likelihood of that? Just gut.
25%.
That's a high number. That's a very high number too. That's too much. 1 out of 4. That's ridiculous. So what we're saying is the Big 12. Just take BYU out of there, and except for Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Utah, who, if they had flipped their seasons, would be ranked 5th or 6th. Any other school in the Big 12, besides those 3 that started in the top 25, does any other team in the conference get in with 2 losses? Oh, sorry, 1
with
possibly.
1 loss?
Yeah, 1 loss. That's what I meant. Because there's Iowa State. Well, I guess it's just Iowa State and BYU.
It would just be BYU, right? BYU.
Just getting the second team is the point. Go ahead.
I don't think there's any way that the Big 12's getting 2 teams in. Said that all year. Said that before the season and everything. It was setting up that way beforehand. Like, it's just hard to see the pathway, no matter what. Like, the only way it could happen is if BYU did lose a close game to K-State. That was money. 100% nails on that one because they beat K-State before. Okay. But if it's anybody else, if Colorado wins a game by 10 points versus, say, a BYU and stuff, Colorado gets in, BYU gets left out. I'm serious about that. I think that 1 bid for the Big 12, and that's it, guys, and that's going to be the champion bid.
Also, what I brought up earlier, let's say Miami loses the ACC championship. They got 1 loss. Are you going to take
I think Miami gets in.
Or you're
Miami
1 loss Miami or
gets
1 loss
in.
BYU. Yeah, Miami gets in.
The reason Miami gets in is because they started at 4.
Yes.
That's the whole point about the Rush. That's our point, is they start at 9. And there's even an opportunity for Boise State to jump them. Let's not talk about BYU. Let's talk about the conference. The very first poll with 12 teams in the history of the world, it'll never happen again, set a paradigm that basically the Big 12 and the Mountain West, soon to be the Pac-12, are equal. That's what that says.
Yeah.
So West Virginia's the 9 seed. What's your emotion now if you find out that Boise State could possibly not only take your seed, but you will take your bye?
Well,
if
West Virginia is even in that situation, I'm pretty happy actually. But I know what you're saying from a Big 12 in conference standpoint.
I'm 50 years old. WVU's been ignored for the entire time I've been alive.
Yeah, both schools have actually. Utah as well.
Let's put it this way: I got my little mountain here. Right up here. Hey, guess what? It's been that way from as long as I can remember.
Right. Okay,
They're going to get ignored.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's the problem that this is just the Big 12 and it's not just football. We see this in basketball. We're lucky in basketball where the top, of the top 10, half of it is the Big 12 and deservingly so. But we're the league that beats each other up. It's just where we take, it's the double-edged sword of we take pride in we're the most fun league. We're the league of parity. We're the league of the middle class, the league of blue collar, whatever way you want to describe it. But then when it comes to these national rankings, it screws us because we all beat each other up because our 1 to 16 is way closer than any other conferences 1 to 16 or 1 however many they have.
Go ahead, you.
And it's a consequence of it.
Yeah, we talked about this. You missed it at the beginning of the show. You've got
the parity's killing the Big 12. It really is. The difference between Big 12 basketball and football is KU's in blue blood. We've got a basketball blue blood in conference, so we automatically get more respect, guys. I'm serious. And we've won that. And also Baylor won a national championship a couple of years ago, some good runs. But look, if KU was not in this conference for basketball, it'd be the same story. I'm telling you guys. It's all about blue blood juggernauts. That's how I see it. Football, somebody needs to rise and become that if this conference is going to reach its potential. Cannot be parity. It cannot be cute little 6-6, 7-5 Big 12 teams, fun Big 12 games. Someone's got to kick everyone's freaking butt and go win some playoff games to get some national respect. That's the only way.
It's everything you've done in the tournament. And you've got 68 teams that go into the tournament. And guess who sets that up? Yes, you've got a committee, but it's all a computer ranking, the net ranking.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
I'm telling you guys, KU is the reason that people have the view of Big 12 basketball like they do is because KU is a true top 3 blue blood, maybe top 2 blue blood. That really is a game changer having them in conference in basketball.
Well, of course, that's always been
the. Hang on, Daniel.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's always been the fear, right? Is Kansas going to jump to the Big 10? I mean, that's a very legitimate fear that the Big 12 has. I will say, I do agree with you, Youth, that having a blue blood in basketball. I would say basketball, I do think has a little bit more of an advantage than it does football because you do have like an Iowa State. They're very passionate fans, of course. Now with Arizona, like you're saying, now with Houston too, there are some historical components to the Big 12 if you put Kansas to the side that does give basketball the advantage over football, I believe. But I do agree that, and then you can literally take this from the football standpoint. What happened when Oklahoma and Texas left? Yep. Now we're having this debate to begin with. You absolutely need a blue blood in your conference for survival.
Yeah. Okay. We've got 5 minutes, so we got a cruise. I appreciate you being here. By the way, both Daniel and Rush,
Thank you.
Ute and I, people like to watch us argue and stuff, but it's the holy war we are trying to build up. We've talked about it for 2 years. We are trying to get attention on it. You said Brett Yormark did a good job with the time of the game. Ute and I completely disagree with you because everybody's in bed, right? You said you're in the East. How many people stay up till 1 a.m. to see the end of a regional up to now rivalry? No, not you, Daniel.
Pacific time.
I was about to say.
And also I'm the weirdo that watches Hawaii. So
Right, but we're the exceptions. We all know that. Go ahead, Rush.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I understand it. It's personally for me, I love the 10-15. I think Mark's trying to expand it across. I think they should be playing a primetime Friday night, a 10-15 Friday, and then each time slot going forward. Here's what it does. And I understand what you're saying with maybe it should be at 7, maybe 3:30. Even you can't do noon because it's too West Coast.
And we're not suggesting noon.
But at least what you guarantee is it's a standalone. And I think that's the point, is you're trying to introduce the Holy War and repackage it for the rest.
For the national.
Exactly. Because think about it. Until recently, with all these TV contracts, college football's always been very regional, and you watch your teams in your region.
Right.
And so this is kind of that reintroduction of what the Holy War is to the national stage. Is the time slot the greatest? Probably not, but at least you're not going against the SEC and these Big Ten schools.
That's true.
And it's a standalone. So and sometimes too, after those 7:00 games, you're still a little fired up. So you're like, well, let me take a look at this BYU Utah. Next thing you know, it's like, it's 1-2 a.m. and there's a London NFL game on the next day. I'll just fall asleep right here on this chair.
we want 3-4 million people watching the game. So that's our motivation. Yes. Anyway, one last question, and then we got to go.
Does it change the Holy War game? So the smoke right now is that Brandon Rose is going to make his first start over Isaac Wilson for the Utes.
Oh, that's been sort of figured out?
Not figured out, but that's the smoke right now, is that Brandon Rose will be the first. He doesn't have a lot of tape. He was supposed to be the starter last year when Cam Rising was hurt, but he got hurt preseason. So this is going to be, you guys, like the injury.
A lot of Ute injuries are crazy.
So we're throwing a new quarterback with no tape into the mix. He's a third-year guy in the program. Does that change anything versus Isaac Wilson playing this football game?
Is he for sure starting, or is that the rumor?
That's the smoke. So I would say I would give it about a 75% likelihood of that happening. Yeah.
Well, we've seen it a lot before. Is sometimes people out there without any tape going out there like, hey man, you have absolutely nothing to lose. That's the winning formula.
Right.
It probably actually serves you better. If I'm a Utah fan, I probably would rather have him start than Wilson.
That's just one more wrench into this game.
It's at the end of the day, and our job as creators is to do stuff like this, certainly for the Big 12 promote. And I think the Holy War is major undervalued. And this is our chance to stand out. You're right, 8:15. Everybody BYU 8:15 synonymous, right? Utah, when they were in the Pac-12, got the same slot late. They just, in this mountain time zone, that's their preference. That's why BYU plays all the night games. So, I guess as a last word, you could talk CFP, Holy War. I'll give you, just a second here to kind of tell us what you're thinking about this week's games.
Me?
Go ahead, Rush.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited that the Holy War is back. I'm excited that the national audience finally gets to see this, and it's a protected rivalry, and we get to see it year in and year out. As a young kid, a lot of great memories with this game. Some not so great memories depending on the outcome of it.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
but regardless, this is an incredible game that I'm excited the nation is going to be able to see. So everyone buckle up, throw out the record books, throw out the storylines, throw all of that out, because these guys do not like each other, and it's going to be
guys,
fun.
We got about 1 more minute left.
Yeah, go ahead.
Throw the score prediction. All right, Rush, you throw it out. Daniel, the Mind Bomber. We're going to finish you off. What's the score prediction for this game?
30-27 Utah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Daniel?
I'm going to go 35-7 BYU.
35-7. Okay, Ute.
25-24 Utah.
25. It has to be a low-scoring game. I will say that. I think it has to be probably below 25 points for the winning team for Utah to win. Because I don't think they have enough offense against BYU's defense. So that means your turnovers, fluke plays, pretty much everything would have to go Utah's way. But I said on Twitter last week, and I'm going to stand by it. If BYU's +1 in the turnover margin, they will win, but it's going to be a close game. If they're +2 or 3, in other words, anything more than 1 turnover and don't give any up themselves, that they could win this by 3 or 4 touchdowns. So turnovers will tell the tale, I promise you. All right, Rush, last word.
Go Cougs.
Oh, boy, that cuts Ute. All right, Daniel.
I'm hoping to see WVU win by 2 touchdowns against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Neil Brown stays, and the cycle continues. Yeah.
Hey, I would rather cheer for WVU to win than blow games, than tank games.
I'm with you.
I know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ute?
So both Nate and I are going to the game. So
we are.
Look for a reaction video, possibly on the upside or the downside, from one of us at 2 a.m.
Yep, it's going to be
coming
brutal.
on Sunday morning at 2 a.m.
I'll be up.
Go Utes.
It's going to be brutal. All right. And I am a Coug, obviously. I think BYU does get more turnovers. But the one concern is the CFP thing. There's a lot of outside noise, national especially, about being ranked so low. Can Kalani keep the train on the tracks? I think that's the storyline going into the game. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching. This was the quickest 2 hours of your week. I promise you that. Rush, thanks for joining us for a little bit of a Holy War talk. Obviously, Daniel, thanks for being here. You helped take the load off of Ute and I. Everybody have a great week. We were going to see everybody Friday for our college football playoff picks. And Moen will be here for that. And whoever else shows up, I don't know. And we're going to go from there. So everybody follow on. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern, right, Ute? Yeah, that's right. 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Follow all of us on Twitter. Give us a thumbs up. And consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia family. We thank everybody for everything you do. And we really want you to have a good week. So we'll see you later. Peace out.